Way to jump on that. You're awesome at this, aren't you? Seasoned veteran, this guy.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Comiholics. This is episode 24.1, actually. 24 was a flop. I don't think it was a very good show, and the sound was horrible.
Boy, that show...
we were both tired.
Okay, so we filmed the entire episode. We had a 2-camera setup. We had the lights set up.
Everything
we were at
was,
his bar,
that was perfect.
And it looked fantastic.
But our hearts were not in it.
One, we had an audio issue where, for whatever reason, it decided to jack the audio up like 520%. So everything was like blown out. So people would start talking, and suddenly it's like overloading the audio. Two, our like 45-minute mark into the show was actually like 3 hours into recording. So by that point, we were just like, this is the book.
I like comic books.
And so that's what it was for like the next like half hour of the show after that, and it was kind of
the comic god spared all of us.
Listen, you were spared too.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a favor for you guys. So, because I mean, we put it out there, like, this sucks, whatever.
Yeah.
But then the audio was ruined, so
we like it raw.
Just had to let that one go.
A little gristle.
So we're doing it again. This time we're down in the basement.
Yeah, back to Comiholics HQ.
Yeah, the basement.
Original. Yeah,
in the basement. And so you can see, you can't really see the carpet. I mean, there's some nice, like, it's almost shag. Like, it's not quite shag. It needs a little more pile to it.
And there's piles of comic books at my feet right now.
And we got Star Wars toys all over the place. You guys can't really see a lava lamp off to the side there. And then you can see some of the stuff back there. He likes to decorate like a woman. This stuff.
Whereas Dirt just likes to pile like a trash man.
Yeah, I just have mounds.
Like, he has probably thousands of dollars worth of toys in his basement.
You've seen Wall-E, right?
Piled in boxes,
Yeah. That's pretty much the entire basement. So
you need Wall-E to organize that entire basement for you.
But he'd break everything.
He would have a nervous breakdown.
Hello. All right, so
we're gonna cover what we've read currently.
Right. Last time we talked about a lot of stuff that we're not going to recover.
No, we are going to talk about the DC Zeros, but we're definitely going to step it down.
Right, bring it down a notch. And we will cover Skull Kickers, which actually we didn't do at the last recording.
Which I was excited about.
Drunk and tired at the end. So this time around, you are going to get some DC Zero talk. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We are going to talk about Skull Kickers. But first segment 1 of the show is always talking about what we're reading. Right. Stuff we've read recently, just random books. So hit it off. What you reading?
Rachel Rising, issue 10.
Now, have we talked about this before?
I think so.
On an episode that actually made it to air?
Well, because you turned me on to it maybe about a month or so ago. I caught up on the digital copies, and I think I started buying the paper copies around 7.
Okay.
It's Terry Moore, who is
he did Strangers in Paradise.
Yeah, he's old school, isn't he? I mean, he would be considered old school at this point, wouldn't you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's been around since 20 years, I guess. So yeah, you could consider
he's well known for the way he draws faces
and chicks
and chicks. Yes. The heroine in this character is basically the Angel of Death. It's centered around this town. It's kind of like a Salem witch kind of thing.
Well, okay, wait, but I think it's fair to throw in there though. She doesn't realize she's the angel. Like, she doesn't know what's happening to her. Apparently, she is some sort of manifestation. Like, she died.
She came back as the Angel of Death,
and somehow she's interacting. She has these abilities and whatever, but she doesn't really know why or.
But she still has like the faintest pulse, and like there's still some activity there. Like she, like her aunt, who's actually like a kind of a beefy lesbian woman, is a coroner or like a mortician or something like that.
Right. And which for like the first 4 issues, I thought it was a dude.
Yeah.
I totally thought it was a dude.
Well, her name is Johnny.
Yeah, so it's just like, oh, here's Johnny. It's like this fat guy with with a crew cut.
No.
You know,
and she has a lover in it. You know.
Oh, that's Janet Napolitano. Like, oh, great. So anyway,
so it's actually a really good story.
I am actually an issue or 2 behind on that. Because like the last I read was her friend. They had the car accident. Her friend's neck was broken.
Right. Her
so they
best friend
reset
Jet,
it, and they put the neck brace on her.
Is it Jet? I think it's
Jet.
Yeah.
And she realizes that the big fat dude actually is in love with her, and now she's kind of like,
No, weren't you expecting the big fat dude to be like really creepy and abusive?
I thought he was going to be like a serial killer, or he was going to try to like steal her body or something.
No, he ended up being like the kindest fellow. Well, but I think it's going to turn around and he's actually a demon too, and he's actually trying to make sure everything goes according to plan. I don't know. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, it's full of this town. In a nutshell, basically, and during Salem times, they persecuted all these women. They couldn't tell who the witches were, so they like basically burned or hung or did all these wicked things to all the young women in the town and buried them in a shallow grave.
To be fair, there were witches. Like, there really were evil witches that were hounding this town. They just couldn't tell which ones were the guilty ones. So
they just killed all the young ones.
So it's just like, well, it's like collateral damage. Y'all gotta go.
So then, basically, these witches are seeking revenge back on the town. She is a reincarnation of one of those witches, as well as her sister, who plays this, like, apparition that, like, wherever she goes, more death comes. So it's a really good story. I enjoy it. So
I think he's done also a really good job of pacing it from issue to issue.
Yeah, it's good flow.
Like, you get enough to keep you interested for the next one, but there's no one issue where it's like, oh, this explains everything.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think it's really good.
Okay, Walking Dead 102, Something to Fear, Part 6. This has been going on a long time, this title, this Something to Fear part, which this whole story arc takes place where, is his name Egan, or who's the new bad guy?
I don't know.
The greaser guy who's been like threatening this.
I mean, if you've read issue 100, everybody's read issue 100. Yeah. It's like the top selling comic of the last 5 years, I think, something like that. So in issue 100, of course, Glenn dies. This new guy, they find out that he's much more powerful than they thought. And they've captured one of his henchmen when they tried to attack the town while Rick was out. And Rick actually says, let him go. Yep. We gotta let him go. We gotta play along. He's like, we can't stop him.
Well, that's the part that I think is like the turning point where Rick realizes, okay, we gotta lay low. We gotta play it safe.
But of course, at the end,
he's still got a plan.
He sends Michonne, right?
Michonne, yeah.
He sends her out to follow the dude to figure out where their base is, how many people they really have, how well armed they are and stocked and everything. So there is like this glimmer of maybe they'll find out.
And then he has to tell the town basically, that's the plan, that we're going to cooperate. He doesn't tell the town that he has actually other motives.
Yeah, he and Michonne are the only ones who know.
Right. Not even Laura, or, not Laura, Laura's gone. Andrea. He hasn't told Andrea anything either. Right. So, issue 102 is a build issue, I would say.
Alright, wait, quick time out here. Have you been watching the previews for season 3 of the TV show?
I watched one of them.
What'd you think?
I'm excited. I'm thrilled.
It's amazing to me, like, how different it's gotten from the comics. Like, there's so many things different on the show than the comic series, and yet I'm still, at no point am I sitting there going, this isn't how they did it in the comics, and then I get pissed off, which is usually what happens.
I'm still on the edge of my seat, excited,
They've just done a really good job. They said from the gate this is going to be their own thing. Like, it feels almost like it's, it's the same world, it's the same universe, just with different decisions made along the way, but everything feels true to the comic source, even though they have made different decisions, and you have seen some different characters and things like that.
Which, by the way, is, you folks will probably, this will probably be posted next week, so it'll be the week right before the new season premiere.
When is the season premiere?
Next Sunday.
Well, no, I mean, what date?
What was it? Whatever Sunday is, 14th, 15th?
Is it the 14th?
Something like that, yeah.
Because that's a week from today.
Okay.
A week from filming, so...
Yep.
I'm hoping to have this up, like, Wednesday, Thursday.
Great.
So...
I encourage everybody, even if you haven't seen the previous seasons of Walking Dead on AMC, go ahead and watch this premiere. I mean,
is season 1 on Netflix now?
Yeah, it is. Actually, season 2 is too. I believe.
Oh,
I was talking to a coworker that's catching up on it.
Then you can get Netflix for free for like 14 days. So hop on there, watch those 2 seasons real quick, and then cancel your account or pay the $8 just to stream it.
No, it's worth it. So. Really, for those people that maybe haven't read any of the comic book but love the TV show, all I could say is you got to start with 1. This is not one of those comic books that, I mean, you can really just kind of jump into.
And because of the differences between the TV show and the comic, you're not just going to want to pick up...
So go get the compendium that's like, this thick.
You can order it at shoppcn.com. Yeah. We've got the compendium in stock. Yep. It's the first 48 issues in one easy-to-carry book.
Let's see what else on... You talked about Fugitoid last time. I finally read it. What do you think about is the whole storyline? I'm sorry, folks. I'm talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles micro series Fugitoid. Is the storyline behind this the same as what's in? Was it in the comics or was it in the TV show, the cartoon?
This is its own story.
What was it a part of before?
These characters. I mean, yes, Fugitoid was in the original black and white series that came out in the mid '80s. But the storyline in the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series is its own storyline. It is not adapting anything that has come beforehand.
Basically, an alien race, scientist. There's a guy, scientist, working for Krang. Is that his name? Mm-hmm. And he projects himself into this robot and shoots himself into another dimension, which happens to be the dimension that the Turtles live in. So that's basically the whole premise behind Fugitoid. I liked it. I was entertained.
Why do you keep saying Fugitoid?
I don't know. It looks like well, yes, he is a fugitive. Fugitoid. And then there's the story with April.
Do you like the micro series, or do you wish that those were just regular issues of
April bored me. This is about her like trying to help the Turtles out and sneak in the lab
at the beginning of the
which kind of ties into the scientists involved with Krang, and all that. But Aquaman number 12. Have you been catching up on Aquaman?
I'm still several months behind.
Okay.
I mean, you can spoil it. I mean,
he's still kind of battling with Black Manta. I read that a while back, so I don't.
Well, then don't talk about it if you're not ready to talk about it.
Okay, I'm not ready to talk about that one. I do like to follow that series.
Thrilling.
Let's see. What did you think of the Detective Annual? Did you read that one?
I don't know if I read that. I don't know if I read the annual. I've read all the individual issues. What happened in the annual?
Stuff.
Comic book was Batman in it?
Comic book stuff.
Yeah, I haven't read this.
Batman was in it.
I have this, but I have not read it.
Okay.
So.
Alright, good.
Yeah. Moving on.
What did you think of Justice League, number 12? Did you read that?
Yeah, with the big kiss.
The big kiss.
This one sold out almost immediately.
Really?
Going back to a second printing already.
It was kind of a lame ending. Oh, we're going to kiss. Oh, we have to go fight now. We're out of here.
You know, they've been doing this thing for months where Steve Trevor is Wonder Woman's like liaison for the United Nations.
Right, and now they're broke up.
And she basically says nothing's going to happen between us. And
we're too different. And then
she's
like,
Superman decide to hook up, and they're making out in the sky.
Yeah. Yay.
I don't know.
What a boring
overall, I like Justice League as a series.
This was a boring issue.
But they hyped this one so much because it's the big Wonder Woman and Superman hooking up, and it's like, all right, whatever. Like, could we get a little more story then?
Well, there was a lot of action in the first 3 or 4 pages, and then it just...
They're fighting the ghosts of the dude, and but still.
And then the last bit was Crossed, Badlands. Have you been catching up on this at all?
What? Let's see. I've been reading. It's still the Circus Freaks, right?
Yes.
Circus Freaks,
the geeks,
the bikers. Yeah.
And the kid that has no backbone.
Right.
He's spineless.
And so, like, the bikers decide to help him, but then they get mad at him because he's not really doing anything to help with the fight. Like, they were all ready to rumble. Right. Like, I like the idea. Like, he goes and he's like, man, these circus geeks just start going crazy and they're biting people's faces off.
The biker's like, okay, let's go check it out.
The bikers are like, all right, dude, let's see what's going on. Like, all right. Like, we're going to rumble. So I like that aspect of it.
But he's a complete spineless coward. And he makes a couple mistakes along the way. In fact, at one point he, like, shoots this one girl in the head with a shotgun because he's just scared. And it turns out she's not crossed at all.
Yeah.
She was actually running away from a cross.
And someone's figured it out.
And then he's about ready to kill himself. And then he gets manipulated by this other dude to do some really twisted things that I don't even think I'm comfortable saying on camera. And sides with the bikers one last time
Let me see that one.
But he did something because of
right after you wipe your nose
because of the despicable thing that he did. The other girlfriend of the girl that he did it to ends up killing him in the end. Spoiler.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Okay.
So, yeah, there you go.
So she beats him in the face.
Yeah, with a rock. It's pretty wicked. You kind of almost see it coming, because you wonder why she just all of a sudden is just on board with everything going on. Like, she's like, oh, you're my hero, come off with me. So then they go camp in the woods, they have sex, and then as he's asleep, she picks up a big old rock and just bashes his head in. So it's brutal.
I mean, I guess it's the perfect ending for a book like this.
But this is like...
You don't want it to end well because it's a horror book.
It's not really a big spoiler because Badlands is all about a bunch of little stories that aren't really tied into each other. It's just kind of their excuse to kind of do
instead
of
being
random
like
ongoing...
Instead of like a mini-series.
Right, instead of just like having like a psychopath and then crazy person and then, insane-o man.
Family
and,
Matters.
And... So, that's mostly all I have to talk about.
Nothing digital?
He's got your tablet.
Oh, yeah. Thank you,
that
sir.
jerk.
That's
jerk
appears out of nowhere.
That's the huckster right there.
Okay, let me ask you this. Have you been reading Amazing Spider-Man?
Yeah.
What do you think about Alpha?
Oh, It feels like it's one of those characters that they intentionally built to just knock down really quickly.
Well, like, he mirrors Peter Parker in the way that he gets his powers.
But he's kind of an arrogant little jerk.
But yeah, he doesn't have a secret identity. So as soon as he gets his powers, he cashes in on it, becomes famous.
Like, he's doing commercials.
And Peter almost gets jealous, really, that he's able to get away with all this. And so Peter figures out a way to take his powers away and says, when you're mature enough to have them, I'll give them back to you. But there's this little scene at the end where the kid's at school with his locker and the bullies are picking on him and he grabs his locker door and he crunches it and leaves a handprint. So he still has some power. Now, in...
how did he end up taking his powers away from him again? Because wasn't that like...
wasn't
that the whole problem? They didn't know what to do with the kid and they didn't know how to cure him?
Because Reed Richards had actually discovered the same thing that Parker had discovered, but he discovered it years ago and decided the world wasn't ready for it, so he had some sort of nullification and whatever. But anyway... The key here is
I got one side. Well, how come every time they can't figure out something, all of a sudden it's like, oh, Reed Richards. Oh, I had that this whole time in a vial. Oh, sorry.
You done?
I'm done.
You done?
Yeah.
You done? Good.
I'm done.
All right, thanks. Thanks for that. They are gearing up for issue 700. And 700, and they're going to end Amazing Spider-Man. And then they're going to relaunch it as part of the Marvel Now with a new #1.
Oh. So
now, here's the thing.
Peter Parker's going to die?
Well, here's the thing. They said something is going to happen in 700. And when it relaunches with 1, it'll be a different status quo. So, in one of the upcoming issues, I think it's 698. Dan Slott, the writer, went online and said people have not ordered enough of this comic. And he's like, I'm not trying to hype it. I'm not trying to whatever. But if you own a store, you probably want to order more of that because of what's going to happen in it. But he wouldn't say what's going to happen in it. Something's going to happen. And the cover of that book shows Doc Octopus telling everybody it's Peter Parker. So something's going to happen with his secret identity being made public, and something's going to happen in 700 that kind of wraps up something having to do with Peter Parker, and when it relaunches with the new #1, he said it's a new status quo. Something is going to be different in the world. You going to turn off the furnace?
Yes.
Why? It should just hum in the background. So I almost wonder if Peter's going to get, like, crippled or something. Yeah. I almost wonder if Peter's going to get crippled or something where he can't be Spider-Man anymore. And so Alpha is going to take over. He's going to give Alpha his powers back, and Alpha becomes Spider-Man.
That's going to be awful. You don't think they're going to make Alpha Spider-Man, do you? See, I was hoping it was just kind of like an experiment. They weren't planning on actually doing anything with this character, because he's lame. Sorry, Dan Slott.
So, I mean, that's what's going on with Spider-Man.
That was my disembodied head earlier, by the way. I got in front of your camera.
No one worries about you.
Don't mind me.
Studio audience.
We'll put some bat wings like on the side of your head and it looks like a floating bat head.
Let's see. I talked a couple episodes before on Comiholics. I had gone back and reread Action starting with number 1 and reread everything.
Right.
And how it started out strong, but then it kind of lost its way, and now it's just kind of doesn't know what it wants to do. Well, I did the same thing with Superman. I went back and started with number 1 of the relaunch and just read everything up to current. And it's actually doing a much better job. Like, it started out weaker and has grown stronger, whereas Action started out strong and has grown weaker. So as Action has gone down, it seems like Superman has gone up in the way that it builds the characters and the interactions, the way it's really kind of fleshing out Jimmy and Lois and, you know, Morgan Edge and everybody else in his universe. Like, they're becoming real characters, and so I enjoy that. It feels more like an ensemble book, which is nice. It did cross over with Stormwatch, and I don't read Stormwatch, and there was like some sort of thing.
What, are we on issue 12, right?
Well, there's a 0 that came out after that.
Well, yeah. I think I read 12. I think I'm current.
And there was an annual. But overall, I have to say, I've been enjoying that one, you know, the last few months, so I'm looking forward to keep reading that one. I, Vampire, I caught up on that one.
I have them.
And,
I haven't read them.
like, it drives me crazy because it does a good job of telling its story, but they forced it into a crossover with Justice League Dark, then they forced it into a crossover with Stormwatch, and then they're forcing it into a crossover with something else coming up soon. I forget what it is. But it's just like one of those things where when it's allowed to be its own book and tell its own story, it's building its own mythology. Like, the idea of vampires in this world of superheroes, it kind of seems like silly and whatever, but they've done a great job of, like, explaining how they're separate from the human race and how they feel different and how they've been hiding and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And it's only hampered by these crossovers that they keep forcing because it has its own art style. And it has its own, like, the coloring of the book is different than the coloring in any other book from DC. It's always muted and dark and muddy, and it feels different. And then suddenly Stormwatch appears. So there's guys in suits and capes, like, flying through the sky. You know, and it's just like, it doesn't
Do you
work.
think it's like their answer to American Vampire?
Well, it's the same company that does American Vampire.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe they're just trying to make it more mainstream, that idea of the vampires. But, I mean, it's, like I said, when it's allowed to do its own thing, it does it very well. It's just hampered by all those constant crossovers. And it just kind of, you know, pisses me off after a while. It's like, come on, just let them do their thing. I think the one other book I want to talk about real quick is a book called Prison Pit. This book...
Did you get that on Comixology?
I did get it on Comixology. Okay, to make a long story short, I was talking to a guy from Nerd City in Chicago, Ben Spencer, who designs his own line of toys. He's a artist.
He's a very animated fellow himself, without the toys.
And, yeah, because we hang out with them every time we go to C2E2 and whatever.
It's like our tradition, our yearly tradition. We get wasted with them after.
I was doing an interview with him for another show that we do on the Pop Culture Network called Beyond the Box, and he was talking about how he was designing characters based off... Originally, he got the idea from Prison Pit, and then he kind of took it off and did his own thing with it. And he's like, oh, have you read Prison Pit? And I'm like, no. Like, who has read Prison Pit? He's like, you gotta read it, man. You gotta read it. So, like, a week after he's talking about this book, suddenly it appears on Comixology out of nowhere. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, we've added Prison Pit. I'm like, well, I guess I gotta read Prison Pit now.
I'm on Comixology right now. I gotta go check it out.
Well, it's like $10 for the first book.
Okay. Well, before I buy it, I want to hear your review of it.
Because, I mean, it is big. Let's see. I'm trying to... Anyway, so Prison Pit, it's... vile is a good way to start it.
I mean, you know, the title Prison Pit. I mean, I've read.
Well, okay, the lead character is this guy with, like, it almost looks like he's wearing a lucha mask, but that's actually blood, like, flowing on his face.
How's it spelled?
And
just Prison Pit.
Prison Pit.
It's not there. Huh.
Did they pull it off the website because of complaints about the violence and stuff? Because this book, like... Well, okay, first of all, the art style on it is very indie. Like indie comic. It is not your superhero style comic. It looks you know, very underground. You know, if you bought like a black and white comic, you know, back in the day, whatever. But the way in which he does panel to panel action feels almost like storyboards, almost like you're looking at storyboards from a movie or an animated series or something. You may have to go to the website. Maybe it won't show up in the store, and you actually have to go to the .com. Like the lead character, I think his name is Skull Effer, but it's not Effer, you know. And there's like a scene where he's being thrown in like this prison planet, whatever. So he's thrown like into this hole, but he grabs a hold of one of the guards, and he's like, you know, I'm going to kill this guy if you try to throw me down there. And the other guard's like, well, I hate that guy anyway. So he tosses him down. And then there's a fight scene in the air while they're falling down this hole into the pit, and he's like punching the guy in the balls. He's biting his face off. You know, he's like gouging his eyeballs out. You know, and then he lands on this prison planet, and it's that idea kind of like, if you've ever seen a movie like Fortress or something like that, where all the prisoners are just allowed to wander freely, Escape from New York,
right? That
type of thing, where the prisoners just run the world, and, you know, if you die the first 5 minutes you're there, oh well, it sucks to be you. And that's the world he's in.
Yes, but it is available on the regular,
but not through the thing.
Yeah, don't try the app.
So like the guard that gets up, who should be dead, and the guy's like, oh, you know, your guts are hanging out, and so the guard pulls out his intestines and throws them at him. You know, and then the intestines wrap around him and mummify him. And so then he's like, yeah. So, I mean, it's like the most random stuff is happening to this guy, whether or not it makes sense.
Yeah, it says graphic content warning in like the first 3 words of the
like. I wonder if Android like won't allow it through their store or something because of how graphic it gets. So then like he rips off the guy's arm and starts beating him with it, and then he sees like the slug thing. So he ends up like killing the slug thing because he thinks it looks gross, and this guy's like, no, I need that because it helps me, whatever. And so then the guy starts like masturbating and pops another one of these slug things out. And so, like, this is the world of Prison Pit. So it's like the most obscure, and like this big bad guy. He's got like this skull head
like
and spike hands and a swastika on his belt.
Wow.
And you know, I mean, it's every random horrible thing that you can imagine.
Was it worth all 10 of your dollars?
Well, there's 3 volumes, and I will be buying volume 2 and volume 3.
Oh, so you did like it?
Yes, like it's worth reading because of how random and like.
So it's like Axe Cop gone dirty.
Like, if you ever seen like Toxic Avenger,
right,
or some of those like underground horror movies that are out there, like that's what this is, but rated X instead of rated R. You know what I mean? And like,
I'm in love already.
His arm gets cut off, so he grabs one of the slug things and he puts it on to be his arm, and the thing just likes to like suck the blood out of stuff and whatever, and then he realizes he can use it on himself. And I mean that's the book. He cuts off some dude's head, and then like arms like come out of the dude's head, and then it starts like crawling around like a spider. You know, I mean, it's all this. The guy Johnny Ryan is the writer and artist of this, and he's either insane or highly creative. You know, it's like, what's the line between inspiration and insanity? He walks it. It's a very fine line that he treads, and he treads it well. So, Prison Pit. As long as you're 18 years or older, I would highly recommend it. If you're under that age, you probably want to read it twice as much as anybody else. So,
all right.
Wow, is that going to do it?
Yeah, I think that was the shortest time period we've ever covered current.
And that was still like
titles.
40 minutes or something, probably. So, all right, so we're going to take a quick break, run some commercials, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the DC Zero month.
Yes, we're going to shorten it down a little bit than our original format. We're going to probably do like,
instead of going through every single book,
we'll cover like, you know, a dozen, a half dozen, maybe a little bit more, somewhere around there.
Maybe 5 total. Yeah. 5 total.
Not all of them.
But anyway,
not all of them.
you're Chili, then I'm T-Boz.
Right now,
That makes you Left Eye.
right now there's a bunch of fanboys and girls going, I can't believe he's doing that to those books. It's okay, folks.
Here, let me see one of your books. I'll rip it right now.
You better replace it.
Oh, well, never mind.
Okay, so we're talking zeros, folks. Donuts.
Not us. Not us.
No,
zeros.
no. We're
talking about the
hundreds.
DC zeros.
Yeah.
0 month.
Nadas.
They just did a whole month of 0 issues to fill in blanks, give origin stories, do some backgrounds.
Yeah.
That was supposedly the idea. Some were more successful than others.
Let's do. Well, let's do a bunch of number ones. Let's start all over from the beginning. We'll do a bunch of ones. Then we'll carry it about 12 issues. You know what? Something's missing. Oh, zeros. And that's kind of how it feels to me. Half the books, I feel like I'm getting some new insight. And the other half, I don't know what direction they're trying to take with the zero, or it has no value whatsoever.
All right, well, here. Let's start with one you liked. Pick out one zero that you did like to talk about.
Batman and Robin.
All right, which one was Batman? Oh, is that the one with Damian growing up, like his life story? Okay.
Yes. It's the one where it's kind of a flashback when Damian was a small child, and his mother's raising him by herself, and she's part of the
League of
Assassins. And he wants to know who his father is, but she challenges him and fights him, and he is not allowed to know who his father is until he beats her. And it goes in and out of that story, along with the training that he's doing to be this assassin.
It shows him at different stages of his life as she's training him. He's like 4 years old with 2 ninja swords, and they're sparring, out on the deck.
No, there's a really cool scene where he like jumps out of an airplane, and he's shooting those like were-vampires.
Right.
Oh, that was really cool. Normally, you're not a big fan of the art in this one, right? Or no, it was just the Batman title.
I'm okay with this one, yeah.
Okay.
I like some of the stuff they did, like little baby Damian in the Batman costume. I thought that one was a cute little page there that you can put together. But yeah, overall, it was nice to see some of the background story of Damian, since you don't really get it in any of the Batman books. He's just kind of there, and you don't really know what he's been through.
Well, this is one of those books. This is one of the first ones I wanted to talk about, because it actually did give some insight to one of the main characters, Damian.
It gave you some history of what happened before
him and
the
his
story.
mother.
Yeah.
Really good book. You're only 12 issues into the new story. I highly recommend that if you're going to collect a Batman book, Batman and Robin be one of those. So,
yeah.
Big fan of that zero.
Okay, now wait. Now talk about one that you hated.
Okay.
Or just didn't like, I guess.
Well,
it doesn't have to be hate.
Actually, all the paper ones I have here I'm good on. But, digitally speaking, and the reason why I got the digital copies is because I didn't know if I even wanted it on paper. Hold on. Pulling it up here, folks. Give me a second. Stall out for me here.
Stalling. Stalling. Stalling.
Okay.
What is that, Red Hood?
No, that's not Red Hood. That was,
something else.
Yeah.
Alright, what's one?
Okay. No pressure.
Because, see, we said ahead of time some of the ones we liked, some of the ones we didn't like, which to me means you make some sort of mental list.
Okay.
Maybe write them down.
Perfect one. Batwoman.
Okay. I read enough of Batwoman
to know you
to go, I don't need to read this one. And I put it back down and ignored it.
Okay, well...
Okay, for one thing...
It's a story about the relationship of her and her sister when they're little girls. And it also talks about her lesbian relationship with her off and on relationship with women. It talks about her relationship with her father. It's,
okay, I'm going to say this
a little convoluted.
real quick.
I don't know, I didn't grasp, like, where they were trying to go. Because usually, if you're going to... I think it's supposed to be basically just around the father and her relationship with the father in the end, and how she got over her sister's death. So,
one thing about this book is that J.H. Williams, who's the writer and artist on this book, everyone's like, oh, he's going to win an Eisner for the great artwork he does in this book. Every time I look at this book, I'm like, this is the dumbest looking book. And everyone's always like, oh, it's so great. All he does is, instead of drawing things in boxes where it's easy for your eye to go from panel to panel to panel, is he'll put things in a circle in the middle of the page. And then he'll put like weird little wings coming off of it. And so then it's not just a box with a box that your eye can go, oh, I go here, and then I go here, and then I go here. Then it's like, oh, this whole page is a piece of artwork. I guess this is where I start, and then I come over here, and then I go up here, I guess. And like, it's all over the place. And it's a pain. And then when he does go to a traditional format, because they do flashbacks, they go to the traditional format, and then he is, drawing boxes because it's a flashback, so it doesn't have to look pretty, I guess. Then it's the worst looking character drawn. Like, the artwork in Prison Pit is better than this.
Oh.
I mean, when he's just doing, just the random, like, here are people, it's not special. There's nothing.
Are we going to do spoilers on these? Because
Sure.
The end where she finds out that the girl that she's, like, the beginning of the comic, there's a scene where you see her, like, on top of a plane, and, like, there's this woman dangling off the edge of the wing.
Who's, like, a villain, a long-running villain in the series.
You find out at the end it's her sister?
I don't know. I stopped reading it because it was stupid.
Okay, so there you go. You asked for a bad one. Shall I throw another bad one?
That is a bad one. No, wait.
Oh, is it your turn? Are you going to bounce back at me here?
All right, now here's one I liked, and that is Phantom Stranger. 0. Did you read Phantom Stranger?
No, I didn't. Tell me about Phantom Stranger. Because there's a lot of hype about this, because this is a comic that's been brought back.
Well, he's a character that was big in, like, the 70s, and then he kind of disappeared, and they tried to bring him back in the 80s, and it didn't really work. And so he's been one of those characters that they never really knew what to do with him, where to make him fit in the universe. And so as part of the new DC 52, they've done this backstory where all of these different gods, for lack of a better term, got together and decided they were going to be judge of humanity. And so people who somehow did wrong were going to be brought in front of this panel, and they would decide what sort of punishment to give to them. So, for instance, one of the characters is Pandora from classic mythology. She opened the box, released evil.
Is it the same Pandora that's in existence in the DC universe now?
Right, yes. And she's the same one who was in all the number ones with the red cloak and whatever.
And she was in Flashpoint.
And Flashpoint. And she appears, I think, in Justice League, a couple issues there.
She's doing something. That's one of the things I love about DC, the way that they'll
drop a hint and then it comes back later. Okay. Well, Phantom Stranger is part of that same judgment group. Like, he's also brought in and judged in front of these people. And you find out that he's actually Judas.
Right.
And Judas is brought in front of this panel, and they condemn him to walk Earth and to be somehow separate from humanity. He will never feel at home around the rest of humanity. And they take his bag of silver coins, and they make a necklace around his neck. And every time he does something that somehow redeems him, almost like a quantum leap type of thing, every time he does something redeeming, one of those silver coins disappears. Like, it falls off his necklace, and the necklace gets a little bit smaller. And so the idea is, throughout history, he's been at different things, he's been involved at different, points, and when you see him in the past, he's got, this long necklace with all the coins on it. When you see him in the future, he's only got a couple left. So you can tell that it's been, thousands of years he's been roaming the earth, and certain things have helped him and other things haven't. And they finally kind of found this way to, kind of make him find a spot where he's going to be interacting. And in the 0 issue, he goes and he meets, like, there's some police detective. He's got to do something to help this guy out, and it seems like it all goes wrong, and he's bungled everything. And then it turns out that this guy has to die to become the Spectre. And the Spectre is another one of those characters in the DC universe that's, working on that astral plane and has those, supernatural powers.
Doctor Strange-ish.
Yeah, kind of. And so basically, he had to be there to cause whatever problem for this guy to die to become the Spectre. And so he thinks he's failed, but in fact, one of his coins falls off, and he realizes that was his role to play. So it's not always doing the right thing or saving the person. It's causing the action that will cause the greater good. And sometimes he has to understand that sometimes you have to do the worst thing to cause the greater good to happen. It's that idea of sacrifice and whatever. So I thought that was a good take on the character. It was interesting, and I enjoyed reading that, and I'm looking forward to the series. All right, so now you got a 0 you enjoyed?
Swamp Thing.
Okay.
Did you read it?
I did not.
Okay.
As part of the... does that tie into the Rot World thing that they're doing?
Actually, because it starts out, a young lady's, lost, or... She's, lost in the woods in the winter time. And she comes across this, cabin that's, lush and green in the middle of, this wintry forest.
Snowy wasteland.
And it turns out it's a Swamp Thing that lives there.
The Swamp Thing or a Swamp Thing?
A Swamp Thing, not the current Swamp Thing. It's the Swamp Thing before Alec.
So there's more than one Swamp Thing?
Right.
Okay.
There's it's like a... Well, and I think it ties back into the... what are the trees? The
Council of Trees
Council
or whatever
of Trees,
it is
yes.
called. Council of the Green.
Anyways, the girl turns out that she's not actually a girl lost in the woods. She's part of the Rot.
And what is the Rot?
The Rot is the...
Is that the red?
The dark side. The red. The dark side of the green.
So whereas the green is the leaves and the trees
Right.
and the plants, this is the meat.
Yeah, and the death. Decay.
So is this a vegan book?
Yes.
Is that what it's trying to be?
Right.
Like the vegetarian comic?
And then it ties back into Alec in his early days of trying to discover this cure, with all these experiments and stuff. And,
excuse me. Now, didn't he become Swamp Thing?
Yes.
But he and Swamp Thing are different people?
Well, hold on.
Because he and Swamp Thing had a conversation with each other, so
Right.
is he no longer a Swamp Thing now, and there's another Swamp Thing?
They're separate but the same. It's they can't exist without each other, but they're different. They're not the same.
So Alec Holland is a human guy,
right?
And Alec Holland is the Swamp Thing.
Yes.
But the Swamp Thing and Alec Holland are separate.
Think of him more like the Hulk.
Uh-huh. Like Banner and Hulk being separated?
Yes.
Alec and Swamp Thing? Okay.
I mean, he's still human, but at the same time, he's still Swamp Thing. So in this, the Rot gets a hold of his girlfriend or fiance, whatever it is, from the original story, and possesses her. It's really twisted. It's really good art.
And causes her to make the explosion that kills him.
Yes, and then that's basically how they go into that,
okay.
and that's how it turns him into Swamp Thing.
Okay.
But I really enjoy the art in Swamp Thing. Was it Kano? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, I'm not sure how Kano?
Kano. Sorry for butchering your name. But the art has been very consistent throughout the whole title since number 1, and I really enjoy it. So.
All right. One that I enjoyed that I actually, I read it only because it was there. I had no expectation of enjoying one single moment of the book. Is actually Sword of Sorcery. And this features Amethyst and Beowulf. And these are two separate stories in the book. Amethyst is the main, and then Beowulf is the second feature. And Amethyst is really kind of set up almost like He-Man, She-Ra type of thing. There's this alternate world, and this there's this evil queen that is just slaughtering innocent people and sucking out their souls and whatever. And in our world, the sister of that queen has been hiding in our world with her daughter, and her daughter is the heir to the throne. So of course the queen in this other world wants to kill the daughter because she is a threat, to her rulership. So it's kind of like your whole medieval successive power, Game of Thrones,
right.
Lots of that type of stuff. But it's all kind of tied in with this, magic.
Somehow it's still supposed to be a part of the current DC universe?
It is, because in the very end of the first issue, John Constantine, Hellblazer from Justice League Dark appears. So it's somehow going to tie in with him and his role in magic of the new DC universe. And so, it starts out as kind of your classic high school girl, doesn't really fit in anywhere. Her mom's always got them moving around, and she doesn't understand why and whatever. She has to fulfill her destiny. It's not a completely original story by any means, but it's just really well done, and you like the character. Like, I thought I was going to hate this girl, the high school girl that just doesn't fit in. I was just like, man, whatever. But then actually, reading it, I enjoyed it a lot. And so I'm looking forward to reading, future installments of the series. I thought it was a lot of fun. The second story, Beowulf, is actually set in the future, and it does follow the basic outline of that original tale of Beowulf and Grendel, the monster coming to attack and whatever, except it's in the post-apocalyptic future. So it's in a future so far in advance where all of technology has broken down and the world has kind of restarted, and it's back to villages and tribes and everything, except every so often there's some sort of cluster of technology that has still managed to exist. And Beowulf somehow lives in like this futuristic lab that somehow supports him and keeps him alive and keeps him strong, and he is still able to fight. And you get the idea that Grendel is some sort of also some guy who has tapped into technology that makes him strong and gives him the ability to slaughter, and he can get away with whatever he wants because he's got the ability to get to technology. And it's the people who are left in the little village that need the help, that need to get this guy to help them out. So it has that kind of, that idea of the road warrior, kind of future world.
Max-ish.
Yeah, it's Mad Max, but instead of it being, guys in leather in the middle of the desert, it's people in this almost like Viking-type society that has reemerged in England. So I found it really, again, I didn't expect anything out of this Sword of Sorcery book from DC. I was like, whatever. I'm bored. It's sitting here. I might as well read it. And I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. So that's one I will be looking forward to. All right. What you liked?
Okay. I'm torn.
You're torn?
Well, I was either going to talk about Batman.
Uh-huh.
Which actually, no, we won't do that.
Okay.
We'll do Batgirl. Batgirl.
Okay.
Gail Simone.
This is one you liked?
Yeah, I did like this one.
I was mixed on this one.
Were you mixed on it?
I was.
It starts off with Barbara Gordon really young, in her early phases of becoming Batgirl.
Mm-hmm.
And she revels in her perception of Batman and her place as being Batgirl. She fights kind of this like villain thug BA kind of guy. Doesn't go well for her, and
so basically,
but what I do like about it is there's more perspective on what made her turn to become Batgirl.
Okay, so what I liked was the idea that she's in the police headquarters. She has a thing for Batman, and of course they're trying to find Batman, so they've got like this fake suit of what they think Batman looks like.
Right.
And so when this guy attacks, she puts on the suit.
Yeah, she puts on
to fight. Right, and so that's how she kind of gets the idea of becoming Batgirl. And so I was like, okay, I can kind of see that happening. What I hated was this villain.
I think he was just kind of. That wasn't really the point, though.
Well, but okay,
so any villain.
So they wanted a big, beefy, muscular guy,
and that's what they did.
So they got this guy who's like 8 feet tall, right. 350 pounds of solid rock is this
right.
guy. He's like the professional wrestler, MMA fighter looking guy. And somehow he's this charismatic cult leader.
Right.
He's like supposed to be the sweet-talking, brainwashing guy.
Right. He says some like twisted things to Barbara.
Yeah. He can win you over with his words, and he can get into your mind. And yet, he's just a big fighter.
Right.
Stuff goes down. He just starts punching people. So he doesn't have any sort of verbal skills, but somehow that's what he's supposed to be.
That was the problem. That was your biggest beef with it. Was the villain?
It didn't make sense. Like, that does not make sense. If he's a a guy who you're going to have to confront physically and get into fist fight with, and he's 8 feet tall, and he's 350 pounds, then he's a big bruiser dude who punches people and pummels them and puts them in his place. If he's a charismatic, smooth-talking guy...
He should be like a wimpy little puny guy.
Yeah, he should be a skinny little guy, and he's the type of guy that you're like, oh, I could beat the crap out of him, who cares? And then he, like, plays the mind games and whatever. This guy was not intelligent. He had no ability to play mind games. He was just a big bruiser, but somehow he was this charismatic cult leader. Like, it just didn't... That just stuck out like a sore thumb. Like, it just didn't make sense. It was just the biggest, dumbest thing in the middle of that storyline.
What parts did you like?
I liked the idea of how she got the idea of being Batgirl by just grabbing this random suit, this prototype suit, whatever they had sitting around, and getting inspired. All right, I'm going to talk about one I hated.
Okay.
And that is Green Lantern Zero.
Okay.
Did you read Green Lantern Zero?
No, because you hated it so much when we talked about it last time. I didn't want to read it.
Because I told you I hated it?
Yeah.
All right, so...
But I know now why I should hate it.
Well, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. This guy, the new Green Lantern, instead of going back and giving us any sort of backstory into Hal Jordan or Sinestro or Abin Sur or talking about the Green Lantern Corps or any sort of history of Green Lantern, we get this random guy who somehow becomes the new Green Lantern. And if you've been reading Green Lantern at all, like the Guardians have gone insane and the rings are malfunctioning, and so this ring just kind of falls to Earth and mistakenly goes to the wrong person, and the person is this new guy. So who's this new guy? Well, this new guy is a car thief who's friends of terrorists, but you're not supposed to think of him as a bad guy because he's not really the terrorist. His friends are the terrorists, but he's the nice one because he's just a car thief. And so, and he, he has guns. He'll shoot somebody, and that's no big deal. But he's not a terrorist. The other guys are the terrorists, and they set him up to steal a car, but they've loaded it with explosives. When he realizes it has explosives, he tries to get to a safe place. So that's how you know he's a good guy, because he's the car thief with the heart of gold, I guess. And
so what you're saying is he doesn't really fit the profile of a Green Lantern.
Of any sort of real hero, anything. And so he gets this ring, and he decides, well, I'm going to be a Green Lantern, so he gets the costume. So the first thing they do is they bloop, and they get, it's supposed to be some sort of like battle armor, uniform, whatever, and they can always customize it. It fits their personality. So he puts a mask over his face because he doesn't want people to know who he is. The mask looks like a ski mask. Like if you're going to go rob a liquor store, that's what his mask looks like.
That's what he knows.
Because he's not a good guy. Not only that, though, he wants to cover his face and hide his identity, but he's got a giant freaking tattoo.
That says mother?
That says mother in Arabic on his forearm. Because every, Middle Eastern guy in Michigan obviously has the word mother tattooed on his forearm. So when you see this guy magically appear, you're not going to think, oh, a tattoo. That might be something I could use to identify a person, right? So he covers his face, but he has the giant tattoo.
You really don't like this comic book.
It doesn't work. Like, again, it's just like the villain in Batgirl. Like, there's nothing about this that makes any sort of logical sense or in any way makes it supposed to be heroic. And the problem is the writer, Jeff Johns, actually came out and said, well, I wanted to, make a character that could be uplifting for people that have the same background as me with a Middle Eastern background. And I'm like, how is this in any way uplifting? You've made him a car... Why not make him the guy who hears about something going down that's going to be some sort of terrorist thing and decides he's got to stop it, or he's got to tell somebody about it, he's got to do something about it. Instead, he's just a guy he's a bad guy, but there are worse guys out there, and they put him in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's not heroic. That doesn't make him in any way... And somehow he's supposed to be the new, Green Lantern for the new century or whatever, and just nothing about it works, nothing about it makes sense. It's just a failure from top to bottom. And look at this. Like, ski mask and gun. Like, is that not a liquor store robbery getting ready to happen right there? And then, look, and his arm, the tattoo is glowing when he's got the ring on. Like, is that identifiable? Like, is that the first thing that police asked? Did they have any identifying marks? Oh, yeah, a giant tattoo glowing on his forearm.
not like.
I did not like Green Lantern Zero. All right, how about you? Anything else you want to talk about? You liked or disliked?
How about I was surprised with Frankenstein, Agent of Shade.
I did read that one.
I didn't think I'd like it.
Well, see, overall, I like Frankenstein. Do you read it at all?
No.
Okay.
But I was always kind of had an aversion to it. I'm like, Frankenstein? Really? I don't know.
Well, yeah, but in a world where there's superheroes, you couldn't have a Frankenstein?
No.
Like an alien
No,
can
that's
crash
fine,
land and fly.
Yes.
But piecing body parts together, hitting it with lightning, making it come back to life, that's far-fetched.
Absurd.
That is crazy. That is just ridiculous.
Absolutely absurd, sir.
Alright, so... Frankenstein, Agent of Shade. It's basically the story of Frankenstein, right?
Right, and
it's his origin.
Yes, and the Bride of Frankenstein as well. And basically clones of Frankenstein and all these attempts to duplicate what they did with him.
Like, he was the success.
Right, so then...
And this guy, like, tried to replicate this again and again, and he could never quite get it to work as well as it did with the first.
So the original Frankenstein, like, basically goes to walk the earth like Caine in Kung Fu.
Oh, good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
And, and you will know that he is the Lord when he says his name. Never mind, I'm not going to go there. But anyways.
Okay, now you lost. Bad call. Bad call.
So he ends up, like, in the Amazon.
Right.
And lives with this tribe. And basically becomes one with the tribe when he falls in this pit and fights this big monster.
And, like, when he escapes, like, he grabs, like, some swords and he's just, like, slashing stuff, trying to get the hell out of there. And apparently, like, he just lives in the jungle and learns how to use this stuff. And so then they find him and they start using him throughout history. So, like, stuff where it's like World War II and there's Nazis all over the place. And they're like, well, we can send him in.
Right.
You know, because, I mean, he's half dead anyway, right? He can take a couple bullet wounds. It's not going to kill him. And so he becomes like the secret weapon of, you know, this agency, Shade, whatever that agency is. And every time there's something weird that happens, like it shows him fighting a big
like the
Nazi spider, mechanical Nazi spider. He's fighting that.
But it was fun. I was surprised. Like, I thought I was going to hate it. It was one of those books where I was like, I'm going to just... Can't wait to finish reading this. But no, it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, he's a fun character. Yep. Overall, I like his book.
Not the typical, you know, Firebird!
Yeah, he is intelligent. He does have a higher intelligence than your classic...
He's kind of like Hulkish, almost.
Well, it depends on which version of Hulk.
Right. Yeah.
Dude? Do you not understand this?
Okay. Shoot.
I guess really the only other thing I kind of wanted to touch on is Team 7.
I read that.
And Team 7 actually ties into Suicide Squad.
Right.
And it ties into Grifter. And I think it also ties into Stormwatch, maybe. And basically, and then of course there's the book Team 7. And somehow Team 7, I guess originally, in comics, Team 7 was part of the Wildstorm universe. So if you read Wildcats or Stormwatch or any of those, The Authority, any of those books, Team 7 somehow tied into that. So now they brought it into the main DC universe, and it somehow webs through all these different books. And
Team 7 is the organization that, for example, Deathstroke was in. And
Amanda Waller.
Right.
And Grifter.
This book, in particular, this Zero, is about the collection of all those characters to Team 7.
Right. And it basically talks about how they come together as a group, how they're, you know, brought together to form this team, and they are basically kind of the precursor to Suicide Squad, in a sense, where this is the team that can get thrown in there, and if they're all killed, then whatever. You know, it doesn't matter. They're, like, if you've ever seen the movie The Losers...
It's almost like the DC version of the Thunderbolts, kind of.
Okay. I can kind of see.
Because they're like criminals.
Well, but that's more Suicide Squad.
Right. You're right. You're right.
My only question with this is this book is set, like, in the past. Like, this book is set...
Way in the past.
Like, 10 years before the current DC continuity or something like that? Cause in this...
So then, again, the question arises, how much weight does this have with what's really going on?
Right, it's like, how much...
Because at this point, in the DC universe, all these characters are disbanded.
Right, they're all
Team
doing
7
something
is
else.
gone.
Team 7's gone. Deathstroke's doing his own thing. Grifter's doing his own thing. Amanda Waller's now running Suicide Squad. Like, all of these characters are doing something different now. So I found this interesting, and I thought it was a fun read, but then at the same time I'm thinking, how do you keep this up as an ongoing series without at some point contradicting, you know, something that's currently happening?
Although I did
or
like
how
the
much do you
fact
get
that
tied down with what's going on?
Grifter is wearing an Eat a Peach t-shirt after he beat up everybody in the bar in Mexico.
What is that?
Almond Brothers. I thought it was a cool reference. A little pop culture reference there for you.
So the Almond Brothers eat a lot of peaches?
Almond. No, they put out this album. They called it Eat a Peach. Actually, which almond was it? Was it Dwayne? Got in a...
Tito? Jermaine?
No, he got in a motorcycle wreck. He wrecked into a peach truck and was killed.
Oh, really?
So when the album came out, they called it Eat a Peach.
It kind of seems like bad taste.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Maybe they didn't like that brother very much.
It's a tribute to him.
So
There's
anyway,
my story.
Okay, well, that's why he's wearing an Eat a Peach shirt. But, you know, overall, like I said, it's interesting, and I think it's, you know, a fun book. I like the idea of the team, the way they've done it.
Is there an ongoing Team 7?
Yeah, this is a new ongoing series.
Okay.
This Team 7-0 is part of a new ongoing series. So apparently somehow they're going to keep running Team 7. I just don't know how
Have you been reading any of the Team 7?
Just the Zero has come out.
Oh, no, that's what I'm asking. There wasn't like... They're not on like issue 12 of Team 7.
No.
Okay.
Team 7 is a new book.
So now they're...
Right. So now there's going to be a number one.
There was a couple other new ones, right? What's the other
Well,
new
Phantom
ones?
Stranger,
Okay.
Sword of Sorcery,
Yeah.
GI Combat's been around for a couple issues. But they did, like, Captain Atom is ending. So his Zero...
I like Captain Atom.
Yeah, it started out weak, but it ended really strong. But the Zero is the final issue of Captain Atom. Resurrection Man, the Zero is the final issue. But then they're replacing them with books like Phantom Stranger and books like Team 7 and whatever. So it's like the same number of books are still going to be there.
Captain Atom was really trippy, too. I really liked it. And actually, that'd be the next one I'd like to talk about is the Captain Atom Zero.
Well, oh, you want to talk about the Zero?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you like that one?
Sure. Well, yes and no.
I mean, the story, it didn't give you any more... Maybe, I guess because they knew that it was ending, what's the big deal? It didn't give you any more insight into how he became Captain Atom.
Right, like,
the story pretty much follows just like the number one.
Right. If you've been reading Captain Atom, you don't learn anything new in the Zero. It just encapsulates
but the
everything.
art is so cool. Check that out.
The thing with...
Check that out, Mr. Huckster.
All right.
If you sit down, like now that it's done, if you're going to sit down and read Captain Atom, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to give it a shot. Start with the Zero.
Yeah, I was going to say start with the Zero.
Then 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, and it'll read perfectly.
It's like a really cool acid trip.
I don't know. The lighting in this comic is way different.
Well, here's
it's
the way...
Kind of its unique thing.
Yeah, here's the way he draws it, is that Captain Atom, when he's in his Captain Atom form... He's the only character that's drawn in full outline. Every other character and object is drawn by shadow.
Right.
And there's no... So, like, the bright edge...
He is godlike.
The bright edge of a person's face is not drawn. It's just colored.
He's like Mr. Manhattan. And
so only the shadows are actually drawn. And so, yeah, it does make it kind of trippy. But, again, it's one of those things where you didn't learn anything that you didn't already know.
No. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's a good Zero. And this is the quintessential Zero. Like we said, if you're going to sit down and read the series, read the Zero, and then read the one that came out a year ago. Because it's going to work, you know, better that way. As being the final issue of the series in order of, you know, production and release, I'm just kind of like, eh.
I love that last...
You know, I wanted something a little
more. With the face and then him standing over Earth.
You know, I did want something a little more as far as something to tie up the series.
Sure.
And you didn't really get anything that tied up the series or, you know, finished the characters or anything like that. But again, I do like the book, so
So that's pretty much what I wanted to finish with the Zeros. You have anything else?
No.
Okay.
All right. So we are going to take...
Because I'm really excited about Skull Kickers, people. Stay tuned.
yellow dotted lines. Soon you'll find you should have turned back or turned off any fucking podcast of the worst kind. If this your first time, he's dirt and me I'm I. Never lie, only speak the truth. Understood, no evil, no good, no rich, no hood. It's no wonder that this evil is so motherfucking necessary. Like, hold out that cobra, I pulled this mic up out of my holster and spit fire like a hot fucking toaster. Grab your orange slice soda, only proceed if you were 17 or older. Any younger, turn the beat down, turn around and walk out there, motherfucking down.
Skull Kickers.
Snickers.
Snickers and Skull Kickers is the next segment of Comiholics, episode 2542.
Are you getting ready for Halloween, or you just wanted to have candy around?
It was cheap. This is the time of year where it's like perfect to buy candy. It's like less than...
But in like a week, it'll be twice as much.
Right, exactly.
But then, the day after Halloween, there was like a nickel for a giant bag of Snickers. Well, we just took a break for about 3.5 hours.
Oh, we did not. We ate some chili. It was an adventure. Wasn't it, Huckster?
These guys decided to put
so Huckster,
I was not expecting
napalm on their chili because they go, hey, we like a little bit of spice.
So my bride is an excellent chili maker, and she had some spices in the fridge, and Huckster asked me, hey, you got any spice or anything in there, So I didn't even pay attention to the bottle I grabbed.
Well, this is glowing orange, says biohazard.
No, it was ghost chili.
I've had
ghost pepper.
I've had some pretty hot chili in Rocky Point, Mexico. Just driving down there from Phoenix. I got up here. I think my chest still hurts.
I put Sweet Baby Ray's on mine, and it was actually really good. It was tangy.
We were all
it was
mocking
sweet,
him.
It was
I
nice.
tried to dilute it.
You guys were like, "Oh, you're not having anything spicy! My tongue is burning!"
I tried to dilute the bowl of chili.
No,
it hit critical mass. It was melting down.
I almost shot myself in the face just to get the pain to go away.
It's gonna need a concrete.
And I'm just like, "Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Oh, this is tasty stuff."
It's gonna need a concrete cap.
So Skull Kickers.
Have some bread with that.
Which is funny that we're going to talk about Skull Kickers.
Why is that funny?
Well, because I was just reading the Pathfinder core rulebook that Huckster passed on to me, because we're going to start gaming here pretty soon. And,
on the show?
Yeah.
Like pretty soon?
Yes, we're going to play a role-playing game.
I got to get some sleep.
4 straight hours. You're in it for the long haul.
I got to work tomorrow.
So, and Skull Kickers is kind of a comic spoof based on D&D. You actually turned me on to Skull Kickers.
Mm-hmm.
And the...
well, you said you were looking for something different, something outside the Marvel, DC type of regular stuff.
Well, when I read the introduction by Jim Zub, this guy is... We're probably twins. I don't know. But the funny thing is he talks about how like he started playing D&D when he was 8 years old, and his uncle turned him on to it, and that's exactly what happened to me. And it's about the same era. He's probably about my age for all I know. And this whole comic is about a dwarf and this like really oversized giant guy.
A stunty and a brick.
Yeah, stunty and a brick. And it's got a lot of D&D humor in it. You don't necessarily have to understand Dungeons and Dragons to get the humor. I mean, it's pretty funny on its own. But I picked up Volume 1 on Comixology and just really fell in love with it.
Now, did you just buy like the regular? Did you buy the Treasure Trove?
No, I bought the volume. What is it?
Was it this one, Treasure Trove?
No. No, I didn't buy Treasure Trove. I bought Volume 1 and the Volume 2.
Here, let me see the cover.
I bought 1,000 Opas and a Dead Body.
Go back to 1. How do you get back to page 1?
Oh. Well, let me go back to the pages.
Hit the menu.
Oh, there we go. Page 1.
Zips all the way through. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. See, I bought the Treasure Trove.
Is that the whole both volumes?
This is like issue 1 through 12.
Okay, so you bought both
Like,
volumes,
altogether
whereas I bought
one.
Volume 1 and the Volume 2. How much was Treasure Trove?
I bought it on sale and it was $7.99.
Oh, I got ripped.
Well, because it was on sale.
Okay.
I got it in the Skull Kickers sale.
I didn't get ripped, though. It was great. It's a great read. The first volume is 1,000 Opas and a Dead Body. And it's a very nice, basic introduction into the characters. They're basically mercenaries.
Mercenaries, and
You know,
it's set in
monster. They're monster fighting mercenaries.
some
That's
sort
their
of
thing.
medieval times. The first thing that actually strikes you when you open the first issue, you take a look at the first page. The thing that really hits you is the art style, because it really has this animated look to it.
Animated, clean.
Very crisp.
Dare I
very-
say almost anime-ish? Kinda.
But it's colorful.
Uh-huh. Even the blood and guts is kind of clean.
There's a lot of detail to it. It is stylized, like it's definitely cartoon-ish. You know, the features are exaggerated. You know, the bodies, like the muscular guys, are really overdone. You know, it really has that almost like a Disney kind of you know, like Beauty and the Beast, if you can think of the animation in a movie like that. It almost has that feel to it, except that it's incredibly bloody.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's some light swearing that goes on in it, things like that. But I mean, blood is really a big part of the storyline. But the look of it, it really feels polished. It really feels professional. You know, it really feels well done in its own
And
style.
what I love about it is it's from that kind of D&D perspective. In fact, Huckster and I were talking about it earlier, where it's kind of like you can almost like you're like waiting for them to like roll the dice. You know, you see it happening. You know, it's got that campy commentary, like of the sounds and the action that's taking place, where you know.
A lot of sound effects, a lot of like
fuck, slice, and wham,
yeah, like
bam, and you know,
someone's getting hit with an
TKO,
arrow,
you
so
know.
the arrow is going through and it's saying slice, you know,
Fuck.
as it's going through,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So it does have that. Kind of,
in fact, if you go to the second volume
feel.
at the end, I mean, just to kind of give an example, come on now, when there's like 3 different groups of bad guys going after them. Do you remember that?
like the different mobs,
yeah,
like the 3 different mobs.
and it has like the different sound of the different mobs. Why can't I just back up there? I'm having trouble navigating Comixology here.
You
It's,
have a bit too many PBRs, and now you can't figure out how it works.
there we go. Okay. Towards the end, when there's like the big groups of bad guys following them, and they have the different sound effect names for the different groups that are
And
coming
what are
after.
the different sound effects?
I'm trying to find it.
You're like 40 pages off.
Right, I'm way off.
You're not where you need to be. Okay, but let's talk about the 2 characters. You've got the dwarf, and they say their names at like one point, and then like you never go
three times, I think.
They
actually say their
don't
names.
ever go back to him again. But the dwarf, you know, he's got like red hair. He's got the long beard with the braids. He carries 2 axes that actually sit on his back in holsters, so he can pull them out and start chopping away at people. And then the brick guy, the big buff dude, he actually carries around a handgun.
Right.
And the handgun, like, nobody knows what the gun is. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. They don't understand how it works. They think it's some sort of magical thing. They never really explain where he got it or how he got it. It does kind of almost look like a flintlock pistol, but it's like the one step advanced on that, where it actually
takes
has
place in like the funniest comic relief too in the second volume, So he stashes his gun under the bed, and they have to leave. They run into trouble. They're framed for a murder of a bunch of noblemen. These guards storm their room to ransack the room and find out, more information about these guys. They find the gun under the bed. One of the guards picks it up. He's like, I don't know what this is. Nobody knows what this is.
And he looks at it. Well, he picks it up by the barrel.
Yeah.
And he goes, what kind of hammer is this?
So he
Because
taps it on
like
the table and shoots himself dead. And then it pans back to our mercenaries. And then it goes back to the guards in the room. And they're all scared, hiding behind a table because they think this magical hammer is cursed.
And like one of them goes, "There's nothing wrong with this thing." And he takes his pike.
He takes his spear and
puts it right in the finger guard, lifts it up, and of course hits the trigger and it shoots him in the head.
So now there's two bodies on the ground with the magical hammer on the chest, and everybody's hiding behind the table. I think what we're getting at here is I think Huckster and I can relate. Those silly late nights playing D&D. Where it's just like...
You hear a sound from inside the cave, like, I charge at it! This goes, I'm swinging! Okay, you're dead.
Well, like the really absurd things, where it's just, you would do just preposterous things playing D&D just to add some spice to it because you're just bored out of your minds rolling dice in the basement.
Alright, so let's go back a little bit. The story starts out with these... two guys, you get a sense of who they are. They're fighting a werewolf in a back alley. Mm-hmm. They're trying to kill him, get rid of him. They can get some sort of reward money. And then as it turns out, the local nobleman...
The nobleman is walking through the town. At the same point, the mercenaries just happen to be upon the street.
And one of them notices something up in the tower.
Right.
It's like, oh, hey, there's something going on up there. And right about the
it's
time
an archer
he realizes...
his bow.
What's happening, you just see this arrow come and stick the nobleman right in his eye socket. And he falls over dead.
So then everybody's all freaking out. Of course, the mercenaries volunteer. Oh, well, if you pay us, we'll figure out who did it.
And he offers 1,000 opas to whoever can find. And
we don't know what an opa is.
Opa is whatever currency. And so, they decide to go off. So that's where your opas, 1,000 opas, comes from.
Which is funny because the nobleman that hired him is despises them.
Yeah, he totally hates them because they're dirty, ruffian miscreants.
But at the same time, they're kind of outsmarting him. They've got one over on him. So they go get the body.
And what they track the body back to this building, and inside the building there's a
demon worshipping cultist. Is he the goblin guy?
Well, there's some sort of giant monster there that looks like he's like Frankensteined out of different parts. And they've got a whole bunch of dead bodies that they're getting ready to take down into the sewers. So now they realize, well, it's money. It's 1,000 opas if they can grab the body and take it back. So now they have to fight these creatures, whatever they are, in order to get the body, in order to take the body back to get... And so
it's a druid. It's like this evil druid who's basically sold himself to the devil, so to speak, to gain all these magical powers. And as they're fighting all these bad guys, they the demon, was it like the demon monster creates this
I'd go back. I was just reading that page, just to give you an idea of the humor of the book. There's this giant monster, and the little dwarf guy is standing there getting ready to fight him, and the monster's like, of course, there's nothing you can do to me, I'm a giant monster. So the dwarf runs, does like a baseball slide, like he's sliding into home plate, goes right in between the dude's legs, and right when he's underneath, he takes his hatchet and just right in the crotch.
Right.
And you just see this big splurt of blood, and the thing grabbing itself, and... that's the highbrow humor that you get in a book like Skull Kickers.
Well, and the simple things too, like the dwarf grabs another body and uses the body to hit the giant or the monster. You know what I mean?
And there are times when the big guy will grab the dwarf and just toss him.
Kind of like the random, the kind of randomness that would drive a game master insane. Really, are you going to do that right now? What? You're going to do what? Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to grab the body, and I want to use it as an axe, and I want to chop the man down with the body. What? That's the kind of thing that's going to happen in Skull Kickers. You know what I'm saying? Ooh, excuse me.
Oh, someone forgot to mute their phone.
That's work email. We don't need to read that.
Sure. And, along the way, as they're trying to track these people down, they run into other characters. There's like a caravan of like this brother and sister who are cooks. They're attacked by goblins, so of course they kill all the goblins, but then they want to steal one of the horses from these people.
Oh, and then
so they cook them food, but the food is poison, so they're like, oh, we'll just follow them and they'll be dead.
And the dwarf eats it and goes on this like psychedelic trip.
So, yeah, he starts having
this vision.
He's going. Suddenly, he's on a vision quest, and he's seeing like bulls in the sky, and like the clouds or like the mane coming off the bull.
It's like this means something.
He's like, I can see despair, and all this kind of crazy stuff. And then wakes up the next morning, vomits, and then he's fine. And this would have killed any normal human, but for the little dwarf guy, it just makes him trip balls.
But I like was like he's just like talking to the big guy, and he keeps throwing up at the same time, and just kind of,
So the book puts them on these quests, like you think of any sort of
and they all interlink. Game. That's what I like about it.
And everything. Every time they do one, it leads to the next thing. So it's like on their journey, they run into somebody else, and then that person puts them in contact with another person. While they're talking to the another person, somebody gets attacked, so they try to follow those attackers, and then that leads them to another character who causes something to happen.
But what they don't know is it all is kind of the big bad guys are all interconnected in this story, so it all ties back to the previous adventure they had.
And you get
which reminds me a lot of D&D, where it was like there's always like this big massive quest. A lot of little adventures that happen in between, but it all kind of tied. It all brought, the game master was always trying to or DM was trying to always bring the characters back to reality and bring them back to the main story. Where they just keep going on these side adventures, and that's kind of what's going on here, I think.
Another thing that's kind of fun with the book is that they always have letter pages at the back of the book, and sometimes they don't have enough letters, or they have extra pages that they weren't really planning for.
Well, they did that recipe. There was a recipe in one.
There's one of these, it's Skull Cookers.
Yeah.
There's Skull Kickers letter column. It's for Skull Kicker Stew and Dungeon Dumplings. And he basically has the recipe, and it shows them cooking, and it shows them doing the different stages on how to make it, and then it shows the artist, he's sitting there eating the gumbo, and he's all happy. There's another one where they have paper dolls that you're supposed to cut out and put the different clothing on them, just because they had extra pages, and they were like, oh, let's fill it up with some fun stuff.
And I think in there they had a part where it was the role-playing guide.
Yeah, they did stats. So if you actually are someone who plays Dungeons and Dragons and you want to bring these characters in, or you want to play as them, they actually did character sheets with all the stats for them and the histories and the alignments and all that kind of stuff, so that you could play as these characters in whatever D&D or GURPS or whatever you have sitting around that you're going to play. Maybe even Pathfinder. Maybe it's compatible. I don't know. You can see.
So
and some of the fun stuff along the way. They meet this necromancer guy who's bringing the dead back to life, and he's going to kill the dwarf. But at the last minute, the dwarf tries to move out of the way, but he gets stabbed in the leg. So then the leg becomes possessed, but the rest of him is not.
And then they have to fight this mega monster demon, and somehow the dwarf is the dwarf gets eaten by the demon.
And then he's fighting his way out.
He bursts his way out, kills the demon. But somehow his leg is still possessed?
Well, because you have to kill the necromancer in order to make the whatever. So, yeah, there's all that kind of stuff. Kind of fun stuff where you think they're going to get away with something, but then it leads to one more, crazy thing happening.
I'm still going through the psychedelic trip that he went through. This is pretty... Did you read that? Did you look at that part? It's pretty funny.
And again, the art style is just so amazing. I'm always kind of blown away as I flip through it and look, because it is just so clean and so well done. And, one other thing that they do is at the end of every arc, 6 issues will be kind of the overview of each trade paperback, say.
They'll have the mini...
Each arc is only 5 issues. So that one leftover issue, they actually open it up to other writers and artists. And they'll do 2 or 3... shorter stories done by these guest writers and guest artists of what the guys are doing, and they allow them to do it in their own art style. So that 6th issue, number 6, number 12, it's always tales of them sitting around the tavern about something that happened to them, and it's told through these other artists, these other writers, these other art styles, and so it's kind of just another neat way of looking at the world and looking at the different stuff that happens to them. So again, a lot of fun. You know, it's really you bought the 2 volumes, right?
Right.
And then you've started buying the paper ones.
No, I haven't. I'm gonna buy them now.
Okay.
How often does it come out? Is it a monthly?
It's a monthly, but I think like they're up to 17 may have been the latest one that came out in paper.
Okay.
So you're either going to have to find some of the back issues to fill in, or you're going to have to buy them digitally.
Okay.
Whatever to get to that next spot.
There's a part where the dwarf gets hit with an arrow, and like the big guy, the brick, pulls the arrow out, and
then the blood is spurting out.
The blood's
spurting. The hole.
They have to plug the hole, so they had killed this talking squirrel earlier.
So he just takes the body of the dead squirrel and
stuffs the dead talking squirrel into the back of the dwarf to plug the hole. Oh, it's pretty funny. And I like, like, there's an example where, like, the hobgoblin's staring down his henchman. It just says stare. And they're just staring at each other. Just the commentary and just the side notes of, like, what's actually going on. It adds so much humor to the story. I don't know.
I was kind of surprised that over the course of the 12 issues, it never felt like it bogged down. It never felt like any issue, like, a lot of times you'll have a build-up issue, and so then you have to have kind of like your breather issue.
Oh!
And I never really felt like you had that letdown. So, like it was the ball that just kept rolling.
What's up with the maid lady? The little midget lady.
This little midget lady appears, and she apparently knows everything about them. And of course, there's...
there's the cutouts.
There's like 5 more issues now. There's 5 more after what we've read, because we both have just to the end of issue 12.
So you start with the basic body, and then you have the cutouts. No, it's just... in fact, I found myself giggling today.
And like there's one where it has a different art style, so you can see that it looks completely different from what the regular book looks like. But yeah, I never had that feeling of like, okay, well, this is the issue where everybody has to talk in order to set up for the issue where everyone's going to fight. It was like every issue had action,
and everything still kind of carries into each other. Like, for example, the person who shot the
arrow,
the constable or whatever, the nobleman, is this woman who has this like group of fairies that help her, and their main mission in life is to try to bring the green back to civilization. So at one point they create this like plant monster that just bursts up out of this town and like
okay, wait.
But she was the archer that killed the nobleman in the beginning, so it all kind of ties together. And one of the funny parts, like they're in a fight and the dwarf falls on one of the fairies and kills the fairy.
All right, we were talking a minute ago about this random midget lady who appears and seems to know everything that's going on.
She's in the introduction.
I just realized when you open up issue 7, she's there at the beginning of issue 7, kind of narrating and giving you the background. Although you haven't seen her yet in the story at this point.
She's in towards the second volume.
So here she is giving you the background, and now that I think back, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this random midget old lady standing there telling you the story, but. It's just like, okay, well, this book is wacky. But that's a character that comes back. She's the one that knows how to...
She finds the dude's gun.
Right, she's the one that knows how to pick up the gun and take it.
That's the funny part. So all these guards are all freaked out because, like, this, like, gun, this magic hammer is, like, cursed and killing people. So she walks in the room, and just acts like she's just a regular old maid. Oh, well, this is just a filthy place. All these dead bodies. And she's, like, brushing off a face of one of the dead bodies. And then, like, picks up the gun.
And then walks out.
They're all like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it!"
Like, no, lady, no.
And this one guy's like, "I just
Mom, Dad, don't touch it. It's evil."
This one guy's like, "I just pooped myself," And then she goes up to, God, I wish I remembered their names. The big guy, and
gives him back the gun. Says that guy has your clothes.
Yeah.
Get everything back together and get on your way. So somehow she's bringing them back together. And then in the issue 12, I guess it'd be issue 11 actually, because 12 is the short stories. In issue 11, she says something to one of the other characters, to the evil girl, the archer woman who's killed and said everything.
She whispers something.
Yeah, she goes, "Hey, come here," and it
like,
says
whisper, whisper, something
whisper,
important.
whisper, revelation,
Yeah.
whisper, whisper, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, we've been doing everything wrong," and then suddenly she's flipped sides and she's helping out. So this little old lady is doing something. She knows everything that's going on. She's helping with everything, but you don't know anything about her. They haven't told you anything about her yet. So that's something that's definitely one of those things where you're like, okay, I want to keep reading because I want to know like, what the heck's going on with this lady.
So they keep it fun, they keep it light, but at the same time, they're clever about
they're the names. The big brick guy is Rex Marad, and the midget is Rolf Copperhead.
Right. But you get a little insight towards the end of the second volume because it's like an epilogue and it shows them like young. Like, you know, Rex still has hair.
And the dwarf's hair is all blonde.
Right. So, it's, yeah. It keeps you interesting. It's fun. I like, you know, for example, like when the dwarf with the squirrel stuck in his back is running through a crowd. It says ramming speed, you know. And it talks about like his mobs coming after them and chasing them down. When he takes a squirrel and shoves it in the whole pluggery, you know, just things I would say playing D&D all hopped up on Mountain Dew. So
good stuff.
Yeah.
So definitely recommended. Thumbs up.
Skull Kickers Volume 1, Volume 2. You know, get what are they?
Treasure Trove.
Treasure Trove.
If you are not reading Skull Kickers, it's definitely something you got to check out. It's wacky, zany, fun of the best kind.
Very good art. Very good writing.
Just the total package. It is. This is the Lex Luger. This is the total package.
Yep.
He was the total package. He was buff.
Gotcha.
He was the total package.
So yeah.
All right. Well, Huckster's about to fall asleep here, so when the studio audience is passing out on you, I guess it's time to wrap it up.
Wake up!
I had 2 late nights in a row.
Don't forget, guys, if you want to, you can email us at apocalypse@comiholics.com, dirt@comiholics.com. You can also call the 24-hour Pop Culture Network voicemail line. It's area code 217-953-4025. You can also come to jointheforums.com, the official forums of the Pop Culture Network. Come to the comic book section. You can leave messages, start discussions. People always talking about comics, reviewing comics, all that type of good stuff. I just did a video review of Uncanny Avengers 1 because I got an advance copy of it. And so you can go check that out. Fun stuff like that at jointheforums.com. You can also go, if you just want the comics side of Pop Culture Network, you can just go to ineedcomics.com. That's where you're going to find all the reviews and previews and all the good stuff like that. We've got a new comic reviewer actually getting ready to start. Tim Dog out in Atlanta. He writes for the Click Nation. He's going to be writing some comic reviews with us. Cool. So looking forward to that.
Welcome
some of that
aboard.
stuff coming through. So make sure you stay tuned to that. And on behalf of my partner and the sleeping guy on the couch, thanks for watching. And we'll see you guys next time.
Later.